Welcome to Life Tells Stories, where the most gripping, dramatic tales come to life. Today, we delve into a suspense-filled journey of love, betrayal, and ultimately, courage. Our story follows Amelia, a devoted wife who starts to suspect her husband, Richard, of infidelity. Her suspicions lead her on a secret mission that will change everything she thought she knew about her life. What she uncovers is more shocking than you could ever imagine. Do you think you could handle the truth if you discovered something unimaginable about someone you love? If you enjoy dramatic twists and stories that hit close to the heart, please make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel, Life Tells Stories. Let's dive in. Amelia had always trusted Richard, her husband of 8 years, until small, unsettling changes began to take root. He was staying late at work more often, his demeanor seemed colder, and his focus had shifted to an unusual purchase, a minibus that Richard referred to as an important part of his business expansion. Amelia tried to dismiss her gut feeling, but when she noticed lipstick stains on his shirt and mysterious late-night whispers over the phone, her doubts could no longer be ignored. Each subtle change was like a drop of poison, slowly eroding the trust that had once been the foundation of their relationship. Amelia's mother-in-law, Grace, insisted that Richard was simply stressed from work, reminding Amelia that a wise wife shouldn't interfere in her husband's affairs. But how could Amelia ignore the gnawing feeling that something was horribly wrong? Amelia could no longer stand by idly. Desperate for answers, she decided to take matters into her own hands. One day, she secretly hid in the back of Richard's new minibus, her heart pounding as she pressed herself against the cold metal floor. She knew that if her suspicions were correct, what she was about to see could break her, but at least she would finally know the truth. When Richard got into the vehicle and began his journey, Amelia overheard a phone conversation that made her blood run cold. He was speaking with a woman named Cassandra, telling her he would arrive soon. It became apparent that Cassandra wasn't just a friend or a colleague. She was something much more intimate. Amelia's worst fears were being confirmed, but the truth was only beginning to unravel. The minibus turned off the main road and approached a secluded neighborhood, filled with impressive, well-kept cottages. Richard parked in front of a large, luxurious house. Through a narrow gap in the minibus curtain, Amelia watched with a mix of fear and rage. Richard was greeted by a beautiful woman, the Cassandra she had heard on the phone. And then, to Amelia's heartbreak, they shared a passionate kiss. But this wasn't all. From the house emerged two imposing men in black suits, escorting an elderly man who appeared frail and anxious. This wasn't a romantic meeting at all. It was something darker. Amelia realized that Richard was involved in something far more sinister than an affair. Her fears transformed from jealousy to deep concern for her own safety. The elderly man, named Henry, appeared terrified, and Amelia watched in horror as Richard and the men forced him into the minibus. It was then that Cassandra spoke to Richard, her words dripping with manipulative charm. She praised him for his obedience, hinting at a larger plan to strip Henry of his property and wealth. This was no mere love affair. Richard, her husband, was participating in a scheme to exploit and ultimately dispose of vulnerable elderly individuals. Amelia, hiding just feet away, could barely contain her shock. Everything suddenly made sense. The unexplained wealth, the late nights, the secrecy. The man she thought she knew had become a stranger involved in vile criminal activities. Amelia knew she had to act. Her first instinct was to save the elderly man from whatever fate awaited him. As the minibus drove away from the cottage, Amelia waited for the perfect moment. She emerged from her hiding place and whispered to Henry, letting him know she was there to help. When the vehicle hit a bumpy road, She used the distraction to push open the back door and jump out, pulling Henry with her. They tumbled to the ground and ran, their hearts pounding, not knowing if they would make it. Amelia knew she couldn't go home. She couldn't risk being found by Richard or his accomplices. She had to find somewhere safe for herself and Henry, someone who could help expose what she had uncovered. Amelia and Henry ran through the darkness, eventually reaching the city dump, where they were found by a group of homeless people living there. It was here that Amelia met Samuel, a young man with a kind face who offered them shelter. Though they were strangers, Amelia felt an unexpected sense of safety with these outsiders. Samuel led them to his makeshift home, constructed from wooden planks and old sheets of metal. Samuel listened intently to Amelia's story and understood immediately the danger they were in. He had lived his life on the margins, and he knew all too well the kinds of people who preyed on the vulnerable. It was in this unlikely refuge that Amelia began to form a plan to expose Richard and his accomplices for what they were. Samuel knew a journalist who was always looking for stories about corruption and injustice. The following morning, Samuel, Amelia, and Henry met with this journalist, a woman named Dana, who had made a name for herself exposing organized crime. Dana listened in disbelief as Amelia detailed the entire scheme: the forged documents, the transfers of property, the threats against the elderly. Amelia handed over all the evidence she could: pictures she had secretly taken on her phone, notes she had found in Richard's study, and Henry's personal account. Dana promised to help, and soon enough, the story went public. The authorities were called in, and the community was shocked to learn that an ostensibly legitimate businessman was behind such cruel and illegal activities. Richard, Cassandra, and the others were arrested, but it wasn't without drama. Richard and his accomplice tried to escape when they realized the police were closing in. They drove recklessly through the city, with police in pursuit, before ultimately crashing into a barricade. They were taken into custody, and the full extent of their crimes came to light. The public reaction was swift and severe. The elderly people who had been exploited came forward, and the scandal rocked the community. It was revealed that the group had been targeting vulnerable individuals for years, stripping them of their homes and sending them to dangerous places where they wouldn't be heard from again. What would you do if you were Amelia? Let us know in the comments below how you would have handled this shocking situation. Would you have had the courage to do what she did? With the nightmare finally over, Amelia began to rebuild her life. She filed for divorce, cutting all ties with Richard and his dangerous past. In a twist of fate, she found comfort and companionship in Samuel. The young man who had helped her when she had nowhere to go became a close friend, and eventually, something more. Samuel's kindness and resilience touched Amelia in a way she hadn't expected. He wasn't rich or successful by the world's standards, but he was loyal, honest, and brave, everything Richard had failed to be. Samuel took a job at a local volunteer center, helping those in need, and Amelia began working alongside him, finding purpose in helping others rebuild their lives just as she had rebuilt her own. The two of them became a family, and with Henry, they found a renewed sense of hope and belonging. The most unexpected blessing came in the form of a young boy named Ethan, whom Samuel had met at a local orphanage. Ethan had been abandoned and had lived a tough life, but he quickly formed a bond with Samuel. Soon, Samuel and Amelia decided to adopt him, giving Ethan the loving home he had never known. Their new family, formed through hardship and survival, became a beacon of hope. Ethan would often ask them about having a little brother or sister, filling their home with laughter. For the first time in years, Amelia felt true joy and purpose. The nightmare she had endured with Richard now seemed like a distant memory, eclipsed by the life she was building with Samuel and Ethan. Amelia's story is one of bravery, resilience, and hope. What she discovered about her husband was a betrayal on the deepest level, but it was also the beginning of her path to true happiness. Sometimes, in the darkest moments, we discover the strength we never knew we had. And for Amelia, that strength not only saved her, but also brought her into a new life filled with love and purpose. If this story moved you, please give it a thumbs up and share your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear how you think you would have reacted if you found yourself in Amelia's shoes. And don't forget to subscribe to Life Tells Stories for more tales that touch the heart and stir the soul. Together, we can keep sharing these powerful stories of humanity. Thank you for watching, and until next time, take care of yourselves and those